residents of that school, and we were keeping them at their home school, and we were open.
And there was moving with the other school.
Correct. Because when they come, if you look at our policy, it also says when you enroll, you are enrolled where there's space. So even though you may be a Hawthorne resident, family, if you come like the third week of school and you're in third grade and there's only space at Horace Mann, you're enrolled at Horace Mann.
Right.
And then you can request a transfer for the next school year later.
So that class was half full when you opened the new one, and that's why you had the 3 spaces open.
Which, the K class or the TK class?
Kindergarten class.
Yes. Well, that one was slightly different. It was, we pulled off the extra students.
Mm-hmm.
There are no grandparent permit students in that class. And it's also a smaller class. If you notice, I had a little asterisk by that.
Mm-hmm.
The space is physically smaller. So we only are having about 10 students max in that particular class. It's like an overflow class.
And it's also, that's why we do the best we can, and kindergarten's always been a hard bubble to see. But it's also difficult once a student starts with their teacher.
Right.
And this was that case too, is that people fall in love with their teacher, their friend, and they want to stay in that. So to say, hey, now that you've met your new teacher, we're going to move you to a new teacher.
Right.
Is the problem.
Right. And there were no teachers hired. We reallocated a teacher that was already there.
Do you find there's a drop off from kindergarten to first grade in general?
Our students pretty much stay. They go up.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a time when I said a family wanted their child to be in private school. That was always intended on it. But because of the age cutoff, they were not able to start private school yet. But they could be in kindergarten in public school. So they would enroll their child in kindergarten and just have them repeated in private school.
Yeah.
So that they could be engaged and they could put them in their local public school. But then they just move them after that.
No, if you look at our data this year, everyone rolled up, and then we had to have another whole section for new enrollees. So
because not every student qualifies for TK.
Right.
Some of them go through preschool, and if they're born in the winter, they naturally come in for kindergarten. Also, I feel like in the last couple of years, the way instead of parents bringing their kids to public school for kindergarten, one way to get into private is through the TK program now. So I know a lot of people who started at TK, and then a lot of people just to get in
TK program
at the private schools.
if they have one.
Yeah, if they
don't all have one.
a lot of them now, it's more common.
Rochelle?
Well, I was wondering if you have questions or any comments before I take mine.
Well, I think it would be a nice idea if we review what our desired outcome was. What was our goal in doing this? My understanding was that the hope would be that it would create a little bit more of a critical mass for the high school
And middle school.
and maybe middle school. And then I'm wondering, do we still have the same need or the same goal? From what I can tell, it did not satisfy that goal, which is why it was a pilot program. We tried it out to see what's the demand in the world, you know? And who knows, maybe once our high school campus is finished, if we were to do such a thing again, maybe more would come. We don't know what the climate would be at that time. But I do recall hearing that the goal was to facilitate more students at the high school level. And based on these numbers, I'm not seeing that result. If anybody sees things differently, or if that was not one of the major goals, let me know if my understanding is incorrect.
It's partially correct, Judy, except that we understood at the time that you were not going to get an influx of people coming in middle and high school, because most of those kids are already ingrained into their own communities.
Yeah.
So we knew that. So it was a long-term game, and I think if you continue to play the long-term game, you will build up the critical mass. That's what we need to wait out for. But I love the plan. Has worked in the sense that it has not forced us to open another class, and it has not. We were not at capacity because of a permit student. That's what was paramount.
Yeah.
So
no unintended consequences.
Right, and we really worked hard to guard against that.
Yeah.
Too. So.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we saw was that, the number in versus number out is what affects our enrollment in the long term. So we were having larger numbers graduate and smaller numbers coming in. So now so we increase the numbers coming in, and that helps balance down the road. That now is good.
I have several comments and questions. As we look at 24 or 24, 25 now?
It's hard to
looking
say
at
that.
Possible, I'm thinking ahead, because we're talking about keeping this program going. We're not keeping it going.
Correct.
And so the question that I have, as we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because now we've had it open for 2 years, TK and kindergarten are still on their own a little bit, or kindergarten is, how are our classes now in terms of the number of teachers we have right now? And let's just assume that things stay pretty much status quo for next year. What openings, or how many openings do you see, and would there be a chance to open it for a few students or not? Because I am very strongly opposed, as you know, to having it cause us to create another classroom. And I believe, and this is just my own little nonsense, that once El Rodeo opens, we may see a few more students transferred because of the school and what it's got and so on. And these will be resident students, not grandparent permit, that could possibly put us over, because we have the grandparent permit kids in there, and they're there, we're not going, they're there for good, you know, they're ours. So I'm very concerned that if we can't offer it, because we're gonna be full and we're thinking that way, this is, why put ourselves out to offer it if we can't do anything to bring new kids in? That's number
Yeah.
one.
Can I address that though, because I think it's easier if we just hit it
Okay.
one by one. But, so if you look at, this is just another way to look at it. So if you look at Hawthorne and you look at that there are 13 permits for Hawthorne. And
Which page are you looking at?
I'm looking at the front page of the spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Hawthorne, the 13 total permits, yeah.
Right, so if you look, you take off the 5th grade because, you know, they're gonna be at the middle school. So when you look at all of those kids are the kids going to El Rodeo. So really,
Nobody in permit is going there.
if you look at these people that are rolling up, there's a total of, there's 13.
12.
You get rid of the 5th grade student who's going to the middle school, so you've got 12. And you can see for the most part, it's pretty well spread out. So these kids are now already going to El Rodeo.
Yeah.
So this is, unless there was a section that has space available, I mean, the policy has done what it was designed to do, is that it's 25% of 10 or more open spaces. So if anything, I think that this program, and I'll speak for myself, is that we've upset people because people want to get in, and leaving 10 or more positions like open for residents, you can see that in 2 years we have less than half the permit. So it's not going to be a huge.
No, I'm just pointing this out, that to be.
I get it. What I'm saying is there's going to be, with that theory though, is like with people, that go through the transfer process, and El Rodeo being, part of it is we've done a really good job with staffing. We've cut teachers so that we are pretty full. That's another reason why we're not seeing the influx, because we don't have those large gaps in our class size like we used to. We're pretty tight. Our staffing is pretty tight. That's why we're not able to offer. Now, 5 years ago, we'd be at 100, but we've gotten really tight on our staffing.
Okay, and the next thing I have to ask is about, and I know this is just not even rhetorical, but we have siblings. Let's say the problem is the parents were able to get, through the grandparent permit, the child into TK or K the first year, but now along comes the sibling and there's no openings at all. And that is another issue that,
It's happened. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yep.
Yeah.
and that's
Some
something
people
that,
have taken a sibling to another school
Yep.
Yes.
just to stay in the district.
Yep.
or they may pull the
then-
sibling out and put them both at the same
Yeah.
school in another
Yeah.
school.
Or we have, for example, one parent, my understanding is she's got 3 kids. One is a baby, one is at Hawthorne, and one is at Horace Mann.
Yep.
But she accepted it because she intends to move to Beverly Hills, and
Well, but she's gonna move into it.
that's her hope.
Yeah.
But then she also thinks that her TKer, for example, could down the line get a transfer to El Rodeo in the 1st or 2nd grade.
That's
And
if we
we
open
had,
it up.
and that was the last permit we approved,
Yeah,
and it was,
I
and
know.
it was like,
She
I got
was
one spot,
desperate, yeah.
and it's yours if you want it, but it's
Yeah.
at the other school.
And we had several that said no.
I just had to have
They
that
weren't-
conversation.
Didn't work for them.
Yeah. Which actually means that parent has 3 kids in 3 schools at one point when the little one goes to preschool,
Possibly,
and
yeah.
it is what it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
never know,
let,
permit
these
transfers
six,
are available.
these 6 kindergartners that we took in 2000, they are now in, that was in 2000, so they're now in first grade, they're going into second grade next year. The 6 Hawthorne permitted kids are going into 3rd grade now.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're moving down the line, right?
No, they're going to second
Second
grade.
grade.
Second grade, yes.
Yeah, they'll be in second
yeah.
grade.
I mean, so if all of a sudden, I'm just theoretically, felt that there's an influx of kids at that grade level, those 6 kids, because they are in the program and they're ours, I mean, it could cause us to go over. I'm not saying it will because we've been very, very careful, but I'm saying that if we can't take that many kids, I mean, I don't know, when I first heard about this, I thought, boy, I used to see the high school classes that were being taught with very few numbers in them, and I was looking for a bigger number of kids to come from the high school. And what did we get? We got, 2 or 3 kids, period of that. That didn't happen.
Right.
And we did get a few at the middle school, but that didn't do much either. And now you're saying that in the middle school this year, you couldn't take any 6th or 8th graders, as I recall.
Based on the availability of some of the sections, yes. Certain specials,
So-
certain core
Do
subjects,
you,
yeah.
at this point, foresee any, aside from TK,
Mhm.
because that's a new class, that we never know how many kids are gonna show up.
Mhm.
Do you see any openings, a large number of openings anywhere for next year?
So there's always more space in the secondary, the upper elementary
Oh, the
grades.
upper, yeah.
Like 4th and 5th grade, depending on the site. Like I'm looking at our numbers right now. 4th grade has a little space, 5th grade has a little space, but it also depends on the bubble. There's always a bubble. Either they're TK or they're first. When we came out of reconfiguration, they were first graders.
Yeah.
Now they're 6th graders. So we see the bubble move. That's possibly
Yeah.
why our 6th grade is full too, because the bubble is now at the middle school. But historically, TK, 1st and 2nd were always very, very tough.
So right now at Hawthorne, because you had asked about the 1st grade, which will be 2nd grade, asking about those kinders, they're at 22.5 kids basically each section, and we can only go up to 23. So
Right.
meaning one section basically has one student available.
So the point of the matter is, because of the way of accepting new students that are grandparent permit, we wouldn't be able to offer it at that level.
Right, we haven't.
Right.
If you look at our
Yeah.
data for this year, we didn't approve any TKK 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th grade permits at Hawthorne.
So we almost have no,
Space.
even if
No
we,
space.
let's say we approved an extension of the pilot program, it probably would have very little impact because we don't even have the room for it. So then the question would be, why would we go through the exercise and the expense and the time
That's what I
when we can't even accept them? And actually that leads me to a question about, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing about, when talking about moving TK and not being able to move preschool to El Rodeo, we're very maxed out in some ways on the first level of El Rodeo as an example. Space-wise. And so I just would say that we would wanna, we haven't had unintended consequences yet, and we would wanna make sure to avoid any in the future.
What is the number of our graduating seniors this year?
299 seniors in the class right now.
And last year was
What was the number?
Second
Nine?
October.
299.
299?
And
Yeah.
last year-
299 right now, and I'll tell you last year.
And also to piggyback off what Laura had stated, just for further information, is like the TK through 3rd grade were locked in per CBA around the small class sizes, which is excellent. As an instructional leader, I love that piece. But then we up it from 23 to 29, which gives us additional flexibility. That's why you will see a little bit more space within
More
that
than
4 or
fifth grade.
5.
Yeah.
Because the
Because-
classroom size is bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's not 25%, so it's usually will be for residents, you know, because you know, if you're at 23 to that 29, you're still, it's not gonna open
Yeah.
necessarily for a grandparent permit, but you can see just by the data here that, you know, 33 permits were awarded the first year, which, you know, even, we thought that was kind of low, but, you know, it was what it was, and then you can see that just the additional attendance, because there's just not space.
Yeah.
Laura, can you share with us?
But are you gonna look at the?
I'm still looking for the
okay.
database, I didn't forget.
Okay.
Can you share with us, how many students do we have in 6th through 12th this year?
Yes.
Please, if you have it.
6 through 12?
Meaning,
Yes.
in
Well,
6th
6
grade,
to
how
8,
many?
can I get it broken down,
Yeah.
middle school and high school?
Yeah, if you could break it down by grade, even
Grade.
better. I'm just curious to know about the flow.
237 in 6th, 232 in 7th, 275 in 8th, for a total of 744, 269 in 9th, 292 in 10th, 308 in 11th, 314 in, 314 in 12th. Sorry, I didn't add my 2 columns, for a total of 1183.
Thank you so much.
1183?
1183, yes.
Can you just repeat that real quick for 9th to 12th?
Yeah, 269 for 9th, 292 for 10th, 308 for 11th, and 314 for 12th, for a
This-
total of 1183,
For this year.
right now.
Yeah.
And
last year-
that'll be different than Mr. Guzman's count because he uses the seabeds,
Right.
but we should be pretty close.
She was.
We
she said she
had
did have-
293 graduates in last year's class.
Yeah.
So in grade
That's super
13, we had 200, what was it?
293. 293 students.
Okay,
So,
And that is.
Man, I wanna keep
Compounds
going
and
here.
the
Yeah, yeah.
dashboard.
thanks.
Did you have anything else, Rochelle?
I'm still looking for that.
Dr. Stern?
Dr. Stern.
Well, I'm
I
just
just
curious.
gave it to her.
Yeah,
Yep.
he said
Last year.
314
Okay.
for this year.
314 this year and 299 last year.
Yeah, exactly, okay.
293.
So that's,
Sorry, 293.
Yes, sorry.
so that's about a 15 plus or minus, right, drop?
Yeah.
mean,
Increase.
gain, sorry,
Increase,
so that's
yeah,
good.
increase.
But still historically, we still are very low, like from like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we're extremely low.
Well,
So we had 108 new students at the high school this year for new enrollees for this year. We had 42 at 9th grade, 24 at 10th grade, 27 at 11th grade, and 15
So they were
at
new to
12th
the
grade.
district?
Brand new to the district. So a total of 108. That's
not
108 new
grand-
students this
yeah.
year in high school.
That's not grandparent permit kids, and that's not TK. That's.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking,
Right.
I'm saying, in other words, we
we
do.
only had 3 grandparent permits at the high school total this year.
But in Dr.
Right, so it
Stern,
sounds like there is a healthy stream, despite our efforts with the grandparent permit, it sounds like there's a healthy stream, there's interest, and there's an influx.
A little bit.
Despite what the demographer had told us before,
A
where,
little
you know,
bit.
we were really trending down, it really does sound like we're stabilizing, if not getting new streams, even in the older grades,
I would agree with that
right? Is
assessment.
that,
and I
And we
think
said
one
that at
of,
the beginning of the year, we
Yeah.
increased our enrollment.
well, I had heard it was increased, but more or less stabilizing. I mean, it wasn't that dramatic of an increase, but now it does appear, if you look at it and you look at all these grades, it kind of looks like it doesn't look like it's stable so much, it is climbing.
I
So,
think
yeah.
108 new students.
I say it this way, and we've kind of said this since pre-reconfiguration. So in '08, we became basic aid. So we grandfather claused in, not that this
What you gotta
grandparent,
say,
but
Raphael?
the permanent students at the time that were our out-of-district students based off the lottery system.
Do you have an estimate on how many there were at that time?
Well, so that our first graduating class was like 455 in 2017, and then 2018 was the final where any of the legacy permits and stuff had come out of there. And so we had seen 2 graduating classes with over 400, which would put you at 2,000
Yeah.
or 2,000 plus, which was typical when, if you even go back to like 2013, 2014, that's what the high school looked like, was 2,000 plus students.
Because of permits.
Yes, because they would take, I mean, and Pam was actually part of the committee, Dr. Brady's administrative assistant, so she could actually walk us through the process. But when they graduated out in 2018, I always say this is who we are now.
Right.
Right, we are stabilized where we don't see in each grade band, if you add them up across, and then you go into the middle and high schools, we're not heavy anyway.
Right.
We're pretty average, like it's about 300 kids per class
Right.
each year since 2018.
After the last of the
Consistent.
How many permits in general before we were basic ed? Like, what is on average the number of permits?
That I don't know, because that goes back to
We weren't here.
2007 would have been the last class that
But
they
you
would
know
have
that,
accepted permits
like,
for.
have this class not had permits?
Which is your
Like
favorite.
the last 2018 class, how many were permits?
Well, I would guesstimate,
Mhm.
Like 100?
I would say 150 probably.
Yeah, so.
That's significant,
the
that's a good 30%.
Decline in enrollment with the
Mhm.
permits.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about, legacies?
Yeah.
The legacies at that point,
So
the
they-
legacy was a
people-
totally different thing. It was whether you, not
You
whether
attended, yeah.
whether the parents
And the
went here,
grandparents
you could
attended.
go here.
But
Right,
that
but the
kinder,
point being
that
that
kinder class though was coming through
Uh-huh.
from
Significant.
basic
Yeah,
ed,
but
From
from
any
basic
kind of
ed.
permit, not our residents.
So-
Because it was a different type of.
Should we give direction then?
Can I
Should we move
ask
towards
my-
that? Yeah.
Can I ask my question?
Yes, oh, you
Thank
asked
you.
your question.
Thank you, great. So, did we have 100% of the students on grandparent permits continue year over year? Did all, like from the first year, did they all continue the second year and then you had the additional?
One second, I will tell you. We lost one.
Yeah, as you say, it was low.
Okay,
Only one dropped down?
Yep,
okay, and then my second question is on this sheet, on this spreadsheet,
yes.
vertical one. There was one student in seventh grade that was given detention for bullying. I
Yep.
thought we had a no tolerance policy when it came to these permits.
So, when, the one piece of data that I didn't give you that I can share later, was just the form that, I meant to print it for you guys and it slipped my mind. It's the form that the parents and the grandparents have to sign every year upon registration. And it talks about following the rules, the regulations, the guidelines, the board policies, et cetera. It is up to, a student has a chance, they're afforded due process. If they have an issue, they're able to work through the process. What needs to happen is if this is pervasive or a big problem, the site administrator will need to contact me and say, hey, I'm having an issue. They are aware of the students who are on permits, and we go through a process where we have meetings and talk about what the next steps will be. So it's not like a one and you're done,
Okay.
but if they break the rules and it's continuing or it's disruptive to the school environment, the permit can be revoked, and we have revoked.
We've done
permits.
that.
Because I did
Yes.
also notice this particular student has perfect attendance and high scores as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was like the good and bad.
Yeah, so I mean, I did look into that, Noah, and I actually read what was written there. It was a one-time occurrence, and it was multiple students involved.
Something that we did when we started this is we understood that when we accept these students in, they become our students.
Yes.
They shouldn't be permitted students anymore.
Correct.
They should be our students, so we should
Correct.
look at them that way. That being said, because of the decline and our classes being full, our grade levels being full, I would support, I'm giving my direction, I would support continuing the program. Always able to visit it on an annual basis, but there's no reason not to support it. I believe it puts goodwill in the community, because now we have this many more grandparents that have their kids in our schools, and will support our city, and will be invested in our city. I think it's positive for that, and it does not seem to be affecting us at all with staffing. We are not turning anybody, residents away, and we haven't given any residents, this hasn't been the reason why they haven't gotten to a particular school of their choice, nor I think will it when Rodeo opens, because it'll be larger.
And
So-
I just want to talk through about that whole process with the transfers. You know, we have a very structured process in how we move through the requests so that everyone has a chance or a shot at receiving the school that they are requesting. And we enroll, then we approve the transfers for residents, then we do grandparent permits, so that it's a succinct process and everyone's treated fairly.
But I think it would be beneficial if we continue the program, to do it on an annual basis and just have a report and do this every year just to check in on it.
Oh, great.
But
Well,
now that you've built
you've built,
these
should-
things, it's.
hopefully you would have built the system to capture all this. You don't have to do it from
I
scratch.
would like to make a comment about.
You're looking at it.
I agree with everything you said, Noah, but hearing that there's so limited number of kids that we can take based on what we already have, let's say next year in fourth grade, there's 5 openings. Of course, at that date, there may be more, but there may be more classes going into it, the 4th and 5th might. But I'm very, very leery of offering something that we can't, are we really offering it? In other words, if we're so full and we can't take any, why are we offering it? That's it.
At some grade levels, we can. And
That- but
I assume when you
understand
put it
that.
out there, it's based on availability. Everybody knows that.
Right.
That you're not a
But
shoo-in, it's
I-
based on availability,
100%.
which we don't know until our residents enroll.
I just think that we
Which is
need to be
why
very, very
we're
careful
only
as
able
you
to
admit
notify people 1 week before school started this year.
that you have to be very, very careful that we do
We are.
not have to open
We are.
additional
I
classes.
monitor the numbers daily.
I mean, I'm being very, very honest, that bothers me, that's a big
Dr.
issue
Brady can
with me.
attest to that, and I ring the alarm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've heard from different parents out in the community that, and when I look at the number of 100 enrolling into the to high school, that are residents, I'm wondering if, this is a rumor I've heard, I think I brought it up to you. So many parents, because of the grandparent permit and knowing that it exists, and this is a rumor, so I don't know the truth of it, but haven't bothered to apply for a grandparent permit, and maybe they don't live in Beverly Hills, but they have parents that do. So they're coming to the school without going through the permitting process and assuming that if for some reason it gets called to anyone's attention, that they would be, even though they didn't go through the process, their enrollment would be fine because their parents live in the city. It's just that they didn't bother to go through the process. So they don't live in Beverly Hills, their parents do, but they didn't do the grandparent permit application. They just bypassed it and.
When you say their parents do you mean their grandparents?
Yeah, the grandparents.
Okay.
So
They're utilizing the parent's
They're utilizing the
address.
Rather than
grandparent's
saying they
address, saying
live
it's
outside.
theirs. And because the grandparent permit exists, so they're saying they're grandparents, so I can enroll them through my parents' address, even though my kids don't live there. Because if it gets called out, I'll be able to prove that their grandparents live in Beverly Hills, not understanding that it's based on availability. It's
Well,
not just because of
Yeah,
that.
there's no way to do that. I mean, we have a number of people that move into the district that say that they're part of it, but we have a very tough residency, protocol that we have to look at. So
But is that only the first year?
No.
it's done randomly then every year.
But it's random, so you may not.
So I can.
So say you went in at 3rd grade, you could move in, could you do that?
Or you can move in and then you can move out.
Right, and
No,
not say you moved out.
they have to update their residence, their address information every year. That's part of what we do in July, the data confirmation.
Mhm.
And if we send mail to you and it comes back, and we mail everything up, if it comes back, then you have to come in. I just did this last week. You have to come in with all your documents and prove your new address, your new residence within the district's attendance boundaries. And then you're reestablished as a resident. You don't just you can't, that's one of the things, like your student, you can't go in and change the address in Aries and say, no, I live here. You have to bring your documents to the district office and be verified. Your mortgage, your rental agreement, your utilities, your ID, all those things, all the criteria that is required to establish residency you have to do. Additionally, we have a process where school sites are able to provide information on students who maybe, sometimes they're always late to first period, and, or they say, we are driving far. Well, there's nowhere far to drive in Beverly Hills. We're 5 square miles. And we receive those referrals. My staff goes out and physically checks addresses, knocks on doors, rings doorbells, looks at apartment numbers and house numbers and things like that. And again, if we receive that, then they receive a letter. You have 10 days to come in and prove your residency. And the other piece on the grandparent permit, there's only a window of time that is open and like right now, if someone applied for a grandparent permit, the window is closed. So that
Right.
wouldn't happen.
They're not applying, they're just.
But I know, I'm gonna get to
If I
that
did
part.
apply, I would get
I'm
it.
gonna get to that part. There's also a part in our board policies and on the grandparent permit. If you provide falsified information or or we find that you've been misleading the district, you're denied automatically.
Mhm.
So that will not be approved.
I can vouch for Med Services because we mail out things all the time, or even like the Independent Learning Center.
Yep.
Like, we've had a teacher where the kid logged in and it's clearly nighttime,
Mhm.
but it's 9 a.m.
Daytime
here.
Yeah.
And so the teacher reached out to Student Services and, you know, Laura's staff's like, nope, this kid's not living in the United States even. You know, they're 9 hours ahead of us.
He's in France.
Yeah, and so
Right.
was able to.
I knock on doors, my
Yeah.
staff knocks on doors.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's good to know because definitely that rumor is out there, like I said, it's a rumor, but.
Why
one of
would,
those things-
Mary, let me, you're saying, I'm trying to understand the question you just.
People are lying
Some
about their
parents feel
address.
that there are kids that are going to school in our district, that don't live in our district.
Right,
They didn't get in through the grandparent permit, they just moved out of Beverly Hills. And their justification, their workaround is, well, my parents live here, so I don't have to live here anymore.
So,
So they moved out, and they didn't alert the school, and if the school were to find out, they felt like we would be able to justify it because they do have grandparents in the district, we just didn't go through the process, because they think that it's open.
well, they
for
were
everyone.
living here, but they moved away and then now they, I
So
was,
they
I
think it's
couldn't.
open for everyone, not that it's based on availability.
There's too many checks and balances that are leave in place.
and I guarantee you that one would not be approved. There was a situation like that. Noah, you probably, and Rochelle, you probably were the only ones here. It's tied into what used to be the legacy program, where a student, a senior permit. Remember, I brought a senior permit to the board a couple of years ago. They didn't follow the process. You're supposed to notify the district prior to moving out of the district if you're requesting a senior permit. And they didn't do that, and I revoked their permit.
What's a senior permit?
So it was what it was. We don't have them anymore, but it's basically, well, we've had a few. It's basically like if you've been in school in Beverly Hills Unified School District throughout your educational career, say in 11th grade, your family moves to Los Angeles, but you want to finish your senior year at Beverly Hills High School. There was a provision that would allow the senior to do that, but there's a very specific process. You have to notify the district before you leave. You have to approve it. We have to have a contract, things like that. And there was a family that moved and then tried to say we want a senior permit, but they did not follow the process.
Do we have that now?
No,
When did we get rid of it?
No, you can.
you can, but there's a process.
You can,
It's
because you
it was
have to
part
follow
of board
process.
policy.
That's the law, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
could.
Katie's-
We don't have any people applying for it when I say no, but we still have it available, but very few and far between. Very few. But my thing was I was saying no, and I brought it to the board to make a decision in that particular process. So it's not, where I'm going with this is it's not automatic.
So
Okay.
during their 11th grade year, they have to
There's like 6 steps.
formally,
Notify the
Yeah,
the
because
district
You're
prior to
really-
moving.
Because wherever you move, you're most likely ADA in that school district.
Right.
So they have
They
to
have to-
coordinate everything, and Ed Code allows for this, so.
You have to get a release from
and
your
that goes for any
district.
school,
so
you're
you
allowed
can't
to.
leave and come back.
No. Well, no, you can't live somewhere else and come back.
Can we give direction on this so we can move on to the horseman issue? So as far as continuing direction to staff, continuing grandparent permit with the current parameters that have safeguarded us from,
Do we need a resolution on this that we open?
No, it's
'cause
direction.
it sunsets.
Huh?
It sunsets, it expires.
it's just direction. Just giving direction. So, Mary?
Do we want to consider, because there's so few openings now and potentially in the future for TK and kindergarten, the possibility of prioritizing siblings? Is that legally possible
So we already have that in our board policy, under
for the grandparent permit?
not specifically for the grandparent permit, but under our
Yeah.
reasons why we grant permit, interdistrict transfers.
I'm just
Interdistrict
talking
transfers.
about it for grandparent.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Because right now it's open, it's an equal lottery if you
Well,
have an opening.
So the way that the board policies work in tandem with each other, grandparent permit policy follows, and then the other one kicks in. So they work in tandem already. So if we have a sibling situation, then we go through steps 1 through 4 to see if we can accommodate it.
So what you're telling me is if in TK we had 1 seat available for a
Mhm.
grandparent permit, it would already be prioritized for a sibling.
So Yes and no. Remember what we talked about was we had time-stamped applications. Remember, it was first come, first served.
That's why I'm saying I didn't believe that it was
But-
based on siblings.
But then sometimes people decline, and as we move through that list, then we get to a sibling.
Right. But they may say yes, though, so they.
Yeah,
like,
so we could clarify it.
If it's a time frame issue and it's a timestamp and there is that one
Spot.
that's
Yeah.
open, the person that turned in their application
First gets it.
would be
Be offered.
prioritized
Be offered.
over somebody that has a
Yes.
sibling. I think this will get really difficult. I think if it's by sibling, that
I don't like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like that because I feel that it's unfair. Then either it's by sibling or it's by time. It can't be both.
Yeah.
Because you're asking me to make a decision that sometimes won't line up. So,
But I really appreciate your question because I wonder if there are, to me, given that we had 108 new enrollees at BHUSD this year, and one of the primary goals was to create critical masses at the high school, that says a lot to me, and I think that number is just gonna increase based on the feeling that I have out in the community and all the families that I talk to. I know it's gonna happen. I think, and I respect your suggestion that there would be a connection with the community. But considering that we're doing this shift to El Rodeo, there's already so little extra room. We've talked about our afternoon programs being at capacity and those type of things. I think, I'm still open to hearing what my other colleagues have to say, but the only instance I believe that I would be willing to extend by 1 year the grandparent pilot program is for siblings of children that are already in on a grandparent permit, to try to give them 1 more year to bring in a sibling.
So you're saying no others?
If there's an opening.
It's only if
right.
there's an opening.
And with all the same parameters,
Right.
with the same rules, the same parameters, the same timing, and it would be limited to a sibling of a currently enrolled grandparent permit student. So in other words, there would be no new grandparent permit family.
See, if I can say, I think that it really is a show of good faith towards our longstanding residents and family members, many of whom went through the school district themselves. And so I think as long as we have the guardrails of, we do not guarantee space and all the other parameters that protect us, I feel like it really should continue, even if it's just year by year and not like a 2-year pilot, 2-year.
I mean, I hear you, it's just so much, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And the financial responsibility is still ours. So it's one thing to consider that we're not adding any teachers, but in my opinion, there's also admin time, there's cabinet time, there's classroom time, and there's teacher time. And we have a really robust strategic plan where we're trying to ask our principals, for example, to work with all of the kids that have certain grades or lower. And so I just think that it's something to be considered. You might not be seeing the financial impact of it, but time is also money.
But I mean, I'd also argue too, that if you think in general of the culture, just in general, of kids whose parents are willing to go through the process, who have roots in this community, and who, let's say, have a sense of gratitude that they are being able to come, drive some distance or whatever from Cheviot Hills or Culver City or whatever, to get here, a lot of those kids, and if I, looked at the results of some of the scores, which shows that they're on par with the others.
Absolutely.
Actually, on the high side from what I'm seeing just at first glance. But so having that sort of thing is definitely fuel for making our schools better. I think that opening up our community a little bit, especially to, in theory, like I said, a community or a group of kids and people who have a history and roots here, I can only think that it would be, on an optic level, it would be a bad message to say, nope, no more. I mean, I hear what you're saying, yes, everything is an expense, possibly, but to say no to kids or families that have roots here and decades and centuries here, to me, does not really sound like the best message.
I'm not really concerned with the optics. I think that if we're gonna try something, we have to be able to be open to not doing it again. Otherwise, then we're gonna say, we can't do it because we won't be able to pull back from it. And I would say that that's a dangerous precedent to set, you know, that you're scared. I try not to have fear-based decision-making, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's gotta be right for our district. I mean, I hear what you're saying
I
in
mean,
terms
it's
of the
not
ethos.
fear, it's just, there's also a
Yeah.
reality that there's a real housing problem for young people. You know, most people who own a home in Beverly Hills, you know, weren't able to come when they were in their 30s or
Yeah,
whatever. So that is a problem, and it potentially stands in the way of gaining more robust students and applicants. And I think if there is any such category like that, it would be these kids. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Rochelle, where do you land on this, because we need to get direction?
Well, the only thing that I opine on this is that my concern that I'll go along, if there's no, you know, we're gonna look at the openings year to year, and even though we may not be able to offer any because we don't have space, when you get down to maybe 3 or 4 openings in a class, you take 25%. You have one child, or maybe you got 3 openings, you can't take anybody, you can't take a part of a child. I just worry that, my concern is if we can't take kids, why we're offering it. That would be my thing. And if we are going to open it up, that we very carefully monitor that the fact that we never have to open it up to another teacher with another class. That is my main concern.
That was all part of the original
And that's been
proposal. That's
done.
what we've been doing, that's why we have.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that,
drop in-
yeah.
in
No,
second.
I'm just saying, that's a big interest.
I think we all agree with that.
Well,
Mine is though that there's nothing to stop district employees and city employees from enrolling their kids.
No,
We have no cap on that number, so keep that in mind.
That could affect us too.
And those are people that, right, they don't live here and they bring their kids in as well. So this is the only permit that we are putting these kind of restrictions on, because we can. So I think it
Well,
extends
I
everything.
know, as I say, and I agree with your comment about the community aspect of it, that it's something good for the community. And I think that, and the kids that come back are the kids whose parents, you know, are really strong for education and so, because otherwise why would they have lived?
They really want, for what they go through, one of you said this, they
Well,
really want to be here.
That's for
A lot
sure.
of our own kids don't necessarily want to be here,
They really
but
do.
they do.
Right. When something
Well,
is
you
hard.
know, as I say,
when
I'm
something
in
is
a
hard
different boat.
won,
I'm in a little bit different boat.
When
That's
something
all.
is hard won, it's treated a little differently, it's seen differently, just like why they charge a nominal fee for pet adoptions, because when people get things that are free, they don't necessarily value them, long story. But I just think that for that reason, it is a much coveted,
Well, the fact that they have to jump through a lot of hoops to even get in, and then they may not get in because of the fact that there's no room. You know.
And what we haven't discussed, and I don't know if there's any way for us to even get this information, is these families' contributions to the PTAs and and the BHUSD. We
That
don't-
might be an interesting
We don't
thing
know
to
what there
observe
is,
if we
that's
could.
not
Especially if
necessarily
they have
something, but it would be
memories
interesting to
and
know,
roots
because we know
in this
overall, our
plan.
district has about 13% participation in those organizations, so it'll be interesting to see what that percent is from them.
Keep
So-
in mind, we
I-
currently have approximately 115 city and district employee permits.
How many? 115?
115.
Great.
So
Okay.
can I,
Are you a yes?
so I have
I'm a
couple
yes,
questions.
you're a
I'm a
yes,
yes.
Rochelle is
Rochelle,
a
are you-
yes, but keep those guardrails tight.
You're a
So-
yes?
Keep it tight, yeah.
Okay, yes, Judy?
I'm a yes for siblings, if you guys
So-
want to
Only
narrow it
siblings.
down.
So she's a no on the current, a yes with an amended. Mary?
I had another question about for TK right now, we don't, the reality of it is, you have to have the 10 empty seats and then you're only getting 25%, so you're not impacting any classes.
Right.
And if our TK program is really robust, we're not gonna have seats available in TK.
Anyway,
it's
That's
full.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
We had 60 new resident
So it's likely
enrollees
that
this year,
if it's growing and it's
This year
robust,
just-
we're never gonna have 10 empty seats.
because we changed the age, remember, we.
Yeah, and
I-
well, let's
I-
remember that
I
next
had
year,
never heard
it'll
of the
become
10
even
minimum.
broader.
It's always
Yep.
been.
So let's
But
walk
that's
through
why we-
that.
that's why we
There's
don't
quite a
approve.
few
Eventually, it's gonna be everybody
Yeah.
then.
So, and that's why we don't approve
I think
the
it's
permits
really
until the
great.
end of the enrollment period.
So that means that, for example, the cap of a class is 25 kids.
Yeah,
That
let's
means
use,
that
let's
there-
use a real, like
a real
23
number.
or 29.
Okay, 23. So that means that there are only 13 kids signed up in a class
Yes.
for a grandparent permit to be,
Considered, and then you could offer 2 students.
No.
or in the
It,
grade.
it has to be, if any section has 10 seats or less, we don't offer.
We don't even
it.
How do you
Okay.
define section?
Because I know how many
No,
kids are
No,
enrolled.
but what is section? Is it grade level or a class?
It's
level?
by grade
20
level.
23.
By grade
TK,
level.
TK is 20, first grade, second grade, third grade are 23,
Class size.
fourth and fifth grade are
So
29.
you have that, how many classes do you have? Let's say you have 3 classes of
She's saying he's a
kindergarten,
section.
and that's 60 kids.
But is
So
a
they're
section
already-
a grade
let's
level?
say-
A section is, that we have,
The most you can
we
have in
have
a class.
section, each grade level has
Yeah,
multiple
grade level.
sections in
Yes,
it.
so a class
Yeah.
is a section.
Yes,
Got you.
yes.
But our
You have
calculation
10,
though,
more than
right,
10.
is that we
When
take
you
third
calculate,
grade and we have
Judy, when you calculate, they're calculating
80
the double
seats
number of
taken
seats
out of
are in
100,
that grade
right,
level.
which gives us, then we know that we're
That
past
might
the
be
time,
Right.
and then we can open up 25% of
Yeah,
that
yes.
to fill the additional seats, because we already have those sections open.
And
based
how
on
many
our
permits
CBA.
would that be?
Oh, no, I
That's
don't
not his
know
job.
right now.
If you
That's
have
my
80
job.
out of 100,
80 out of, well, no, so there's
and
20,
it's 25% past the 10, it'll be 2.5.
5
Yep,
kids.
2.5,
Two,
Three.
2.5 kids.
So two.
3.
So,
2, but if it's a sibling, I'm admitting a third one, I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say.
yeah.
I mean, I think-
I'm just gonna be
they're
honest.
little anyway, they're about half a
The
kid.
thing
They're
that
half a
you're
kid, yeah.
responsible for is when
And then we
you
put us
first
at
implement
83
it.
kids, and that's.
That's
I
why
think
the fail-safe in this works so well, the guardrails
Look,
work
the
so
amount of time
well.
we've spent crunching numbers and looking
Yeah.
at things and talking to parents, it's been very, very, very tightly and closely monitored.
Good,
There,
wonderful.
Right.
There's at least 3 here at Give Direction to continue this year.
okay.
I would like to look, just if we can, have a database that we can just easily present this next year. We don't have to necessarily do a study session, we'll just, hopefully it'll come up as an item, we can discuss it.
It's built,
And
so.
continue it. But I do like the idea of at least bringing you to the board on an annual basis, just because we're just trying to see where it's gonna head. It may wind up closing itself out at some point, because we're just gonna, like Judy said, people are gonna start coming back, and we may max out, and it just may be unfeasible and not worth the time and effort for the 2 or 3 students we may pick up. But we're still at a point where we can pick up and build up our lower grades to have critical mass when they get older, so.
Well, I would like to say that I would like to continue with it, so.
Yeah, okay, great.
But
Can I ask
do-
one clarifying
I do want to
question?
be really clear that we are managing the classroom size, and that the open seats, and I would
Like Rochelle
recommend-
clear, because Rochelle is really clear
I'm
about
on the
that.
same page as Michelle,
Okay.
that we're very clear on it. I would
Loud
like to
and clear.
consider possible, because my feeling is if you have
Actually, I shouldn't.
one seat in TK, and, you have 4 sibling families and many others that are not even in the district yet, it doesn't seem that far off to me to consider possibly allowing that to go to a sibling family, just to keep a family together.
So that's the
Agreed.
question I would like to ask for
I
clarification,
don't know, from
because
an equity
that's
standpoint.
that's not in the policy right now.
Right.
It's based on time, date, stamp, enrollment. So is it the board's direction that we would give priority to a sibling, or is it by first come, first serve? Right now, it's first come,
No, but
first serve.
I hear what Mary's saying.
If I was a lottery.
I'm wondering,
No, it's
I'm
not.
wondering, Mary, I
No,
don't know if you're
please.
okay
In
with
on
this,
that
but
date.
if we get to that point, if it comes to that point, can it at least come in front of the board for us to?
Right, I mean, I think we should
Discuss.
consider it just because you
Siblings.
have one
I-
or 2 people that have moved in, they have
Yeah,
one
I would
more.
recommend though that we do it now, because this is very timely, like, because there are people that
Right.
Yeah.
will line up, like, be
The
here at
people
4
already
in
at
the
the door.
morning, right, so it's
I would
like.
I mean,
what
is it an
siblings
equity?
should
Is
be
it
a
a
precedent.
precedent?
We had 4 days when we took grandparent permit
It is.
applications in person this year. My staff was down here in the courtyard
Right.
pulling stuff in, time stamping it,
Yeah.
entering it. So it's very labor intensive, it's very detail oriented. So
Precise,
I need to
yeah.
know the criteria so that we are administering it
So-
appropriately and fairly and
When it
so
was
that
first
the
You're
I-
asking
I
to do
would say-
sibling before timestamp?
In
Yes.
some ways, I'd say timestamp
No,
and
because you know
sibling,
what,
because
I don't
if you
think
don't,
that's fair, because only
I
let's
think
say
it should be
the
time
person
stamped
who
and
is
sibling.
a sibling, who says, well, I don't have to put mine in right away,
Right,
and that
they
can
don't-
affect the way this works, I
Well,
think
we
if
could hold
they
it for
want it in there.
siblings for
I
a
think
few
it has
days
to be
and then
time
take them.
stamped,
No, I
and
don't
then if
agree
they're a
with that.
sibling, then they move to the front.
No,
If
I
they're
think it's
in the
gracious
front.
enough to be offering the permits, and we should stay timestamped.
Timestamp
It's
is
cleaner.
okay.
It's gonna cause problems,
Well,
it'll
I
open
mean,
a
the other
Pandora's
question
box
is equity,
with the
so.
siblings.
Keep it the way it was, if we're
Just
continuing the.
encourage those people to be here when they can. That's
Yeah,
all
you
we
could
do.
give them a courtesy reminder.
Right.
We do.
Yeah.
We
well,
do.
then-
If you
Well,
want
that
So if
just
they're
helped us
early in
send out the
timestamp and they're
notifications
sibling,
and
then it's fine.
and things go out and they know when it's opening. Trust and believe, when it opened,
They're at the door.
they were coming in, like
They're
boom,
here
boom, boom,
tonight.
boom, boom, yeah.
I mean, we could
They light up.
we could do everything we can to consider people with siblings and say we're gonna try to help them.
I work with the families,
Okay.
I talk with them,
That's
I
fine.
call them,
Okay.
I make promises to call back, we keep in communication.
I have a quick question.
Thank you, Laura.
Quick question for the board. So, because what we need to bring to the board's attention is a revision to this policy. Because this 5117
Yep.
is a policy and it's an administrative procedure regulation. So, in the current policy, it says that it's a pilot program for 2 years.
Right.
So how would you, I mean, it looks like this is gonna be, the policy remains the same. How would you like us to address that line for the revision?
Annual review,
So annual?
Yeah,
annual review. Yeah.
I agree,
Okay.
especially since El Rodeo's opening, I think it's a good annual review until you.
Okay,
finish.
we'll bring that.
I think it's
We'll bring that policy.
It's good oversight and good transparency,
Okay.
just to be able to see.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Laura, thank you, Dustin. Moving on to our.
Thank you, Laura. I know it's
Now the
not
really,
Dustin
really
can
tough
do
thing
it.
is
And
shade.
Dustin.
Shade is the hottest issue.
Dustin didn't do
We'll
it.
promise
No
no
pun
one
intended.
2 hours, 2 hours max.
All right, 2
Thank
hours.
you.
And colleagues, I do have a hard out at 6 o'clock, so.
So we'll go ahead and,
If you guys need direction, present it up front so we can give direction in a timely manner.
All right.
so we'll go ahead and just get started here. First of all, I just want to thank the board for the previous direction that we received and approvals to move forward with several of our projects. We just want to give the board an update of where we are. We do have some options for the board that I think are very important for you all to consider. Some of them are actually cost savings, so I think it's something that actually benefits us. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Karat to go over the first slide here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon or good evening. Yeah, so this first slide just represents what we previously received direction on, and there was a shade structure over the blaze structure at Horace Mann. We're moving forward with this. We have an architect on board, and he's designing the structure similar to what you see here. There are
So it looks like you did the legwork already. Hope we're not paying this guy now.
No, this was the hardest part, doing the
There's definitely some
the
shade
design.
in this.
We're going to be submitting this to DSA in the spring, and we're going to be installing it in the summer per our original direction.
Thank you.
So we're on par with that.
And that's
and then we'll take our way
monetary,
on.
wait, well, that monetarily is totally
Yeah, it's
covered
computer.
with what we don't expect any differences.
At this moment,
At this-
no, until we get to DSA, but at this time, no, we don't.
We have the money set aside for this in the project, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This developer fee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This next one
Developer
is,
fees?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
the
Yep.
next item is the one that we wanted to pay a little closer attention to. As you know, this is the original plan. We were gonna have some trees and a reading green there and everything. We were able to install the trees, so those are there. But when we started to look at the reading green, we kind of around that same time frame, we had some drainage issues at our purple field. And so essentially, when we looked at this, we asked, well, are we going to have similar drainage issues? And the answer was yes. So when we got that, we received some different quotes. So originally, we came to you with a $85,000 quote. With all the work that's involved with the drainage, ripping apart concrete, asphalt, all that stuff, installation of drainage, we're looking at an additional cost of $130,000, which would bring that up to $215,000 overall. And not about the trees, it's mainly about the reading green. But we do have an alternative solution that Mr. Ken Haas, if you could go ahead and present that, which he went through and looked at different options throughout the past couple months, and was able to come up with something that I think will be a good solution for us.
Our solution too, in lieu of putting in the actual turf, would be to coat the interior of the track with a tennis court-like coating. I actually have some color samples here, but the color that we would propose would be a light green, similar to grass. It would be reflective and cool. And the coating cost would be $17,800. And in addition to that, in order to provide some additional shade, we would add some tables and chairs with umbrellas, similar to what we just did at Beverly Vista. The cost for that would be $24,000. So if we look at the original $85,800 and we end up with a cost savings of about $44,000. We wouldn't end up having the turf in the middle of the field, but we'll have a green area and then a gathering area where kids can sit under shady, under the shade of umbrellas at their tables. still having the same effect as a reading green, but there would be no turf there.
And the nice part about this though is if we get the direction from the board to move forward with this, we would be able to then do this during the winter break. In regards to the painting, the chairs would arrive sometime between now and mid-January, hopefully sooner. If they arrive during the winter break, of course we'll get them in there. But this whole thing would be then completed, and we'd have some cost savings there. So that's an option. Yes.
A question, how does, or where is the problem with the drainage? And how does this, putting in this turf area in the middle, alleviate that problem? I don't understand.
So originally this is all, was all asphalt and so essentially if we wanted to put the reading green, this area here, the original, which we proposed, we'd have to now install drainage, so that.
In those green areas?
In those green areas. So we'd have to rip apart the concrete. Originally, that wasn't part of the issue. The reason why this came up is because concurrently, in the past couple of months, we had some issues with drainage at our purple field, and Ken asked, very proactively, he asked about this area, and they said, yes, you'd have to get some drainage.
So, you, as I understand, that you're going to change that whole center area. There won't be no trees there anymore?
No, the trees would still be
trees
there.
stay, yes.
The trees would still be there, it's just the oval, the entire oval would be painted the light green. The issue with the drainage is that this property sheet flows, and so if the original proposal with the turf, sorry about that, was to do an overlay right over the asphalt. When we had issues come up with the purple field, and then we had the consultant look at it, and I asked his recommendation on that. And if we do that, then all the water sheds from this side of the property and this side of the property, and it's going to, the underlayment, the infill will float up and away. So the only way to alleviate that is to actually dig out the asphalt. And this is like the fire lane, there's actually drainage here. You would have to dig and excavate and tie into that existing
So that whole
drainage.
area is gonna be covered in that turf that we see through the middle, right?
Not the turf, but the actual green paint.
So the
If we
alternative,
make the change, if we- if
the
we-
alternative is for us to just paint it, with that special paint that, it's reflective and everything. We won't have to do any drainage, we won't have to do anything like that. It'll just stay as is.
So we don't need to spend that.
$200,000. That's why we're bringing
Yeah.
the painting option, because it also, it's a better use of the space too, in the sense of having the chairs and just that shaded area too.
understand.
So Ken,
But there'll still be a track around the outside, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, that remains the same.
would it be from top to bottom green with the new coating, or is there like a space in the middle?
We can do it both ways. In the middle, we have a concrete swale that goes through. I would suggest that we don't do the middle, that we just do the two ovals
Sections.
independently.
So it sort of would look like this.
Like it looked.
But
yeah.
that would be
Just that
paint
this is
instead of
paint
turf.
instead of turf.
That's correct.
With tables and shaded umbrellas.
I also did speak with Mr. Bugby about that. He is in favor. He likes the idea of the tables and umbrellas, if that matters. I just want to, we did speak with the principal too. And so he would not object to the alternative.
I like the
versus
idea of
turf.
putting the tables in the middle because, or for the shade and everything.
And now
Yeah.
that it's not grass, even though it's fake grass, but still,
Yeah.
now that they won't be sitting on it, I
Yeah,
guess
they'll-
is that
they'll
what
have-
it is?
Yeah, so because
Okay.
that's something that we'd like some direction from the board on. If we could do, solution 2 is our kind of recommendation. Looking at this, we just feel it's just an easier way to go forward with. So that's.
I have a
So hold
question
it,
about that.
let's do questions first, and then I'll take a quick poll and give you your direction. Go ahead, Mary.
Does this
This paint that would go on top of the asphalt, I know that you had painted the asphalt previously and there were issues. And we've talked about getting different surface coating that is cooler, so I thought we couldn't do that, so now you're coming with this.
So this
It's
is a tennis
different.
court, this is an actual tennis court coating, it's the same as they put on tennis courts. So it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for the entire area, but this is a coating that Sport Court in our research has indicated would be appropriate for this application. It would be the same application as actually putting it over a tennis court. So
Is it hard to maintain it?
I'm gonna say.
Maybe pay more maintenance for you?
No, it should have excellent adhesion and durability. I think it's got a 5-year warranty, but, so.
And
Does it show?
And it would
footprints?
actually be relatively easy to recoat. So, once we put, so for instance, every 4 or 5 years, if we wanted to put a fresh coat on, it would cost us about half of that, $17,800, because the initial coats are multiple coats. And so it'd be relatively low maintenance.
Does it show footprints?
It'll be just like a tennis court. So, if the area around it's relatively clean, but if kids, if it got real dusty, you would hose down and
Okay.
clean off. It'd be durable.
Michelle, did you have a question?
I think this still will not require any DSA, and you have to go through DSA or anything.
Option 1 may potentially require that. Option 2, which is what we're recommending, does not.
Yeah.
And the price that you're giving us, the chairs and the tables, is included in which price
Yes,
there?
and the 41,800 is the all-in price, including the chairs and the tables. So it would be a cost savings of 44,000. Our original proposal was 85,800. Now it's 44,000 because we're using that special paint, and we're also putting the chairs there so that kids could sit.
And we don't have that 130,000 there either, right? The up above.
How many sets is it?
That would be alternative 1.
There are 8 sets of
Added
tables
cost.
and chairs.
What's good about that is that teachers can take their classes out
No, I
and use
think
those
it's nicer to
sections.
sit in the chairs, but, I have a question to you on the color, which, it's not our thing, but I would prefer.
Can I see the
forest
painting
green over
part?
that bright green, because you already have all that purple everywhere.
I'm okay with forest.
So the forest is a darker color that doesn't have that solar reflective index rating, so it's gonna be a little warmer. It can go both ways, the pricing won't change. And I don't think it's gonna have a huge impact. I mean, the darker green in the forest is what we see on our tennis courts, the lighter one is one that has the higher solar
Are you
reflective index.
replacing the turf, the purple turf?
You got it.
At some point, yeah.
I love the.
Right now, we're about 3 years away from end of useful life on the purple turf, so we're gonna plan for that in our updated deferred maintenance plan. There are some drainage issues. Excuse me?
Can we talk about making it green instead of?
No, we're
infamous.
We're infamous.
People can't wait to play in the purple turf.
And he's got his vest and his ties and his sweaters, so don't do that to him.
Okay, colleagues, so we can move on, 1 or 2. Mary?
I'm okay with the changes.
With 2,
Judy, you're 2?
yes. I was asking you, you were
Number
saying 2,
2,
right?
definitely.
Not too.
Mandy, 2? Yeah, I see it as a less maintenance nightmare going with
And
number 2
better
as
use.
well,
But
which
Ken, I have
might
2
be
questions.
better for us.
How many table sets, how many tables does the 24,000 provide for?
8 sets.
Oh, that's great.
8 sets. So initially, our initial plan was to have 2 trees and 3 trees. Right now, we have 1 tree and 4 trees over here, because when we went to go actually do the underground, before we started digging holes, we found a lot of infrastructure in this area that we couldn't encroach on. So the plan would be to put a table set in between each of the 4 trees, and then, and then the balance of them at the other end.
So we'll always just have 1 tree on that side.
No,
Yeah, okay. So
There's
you
no,
can
we
use a
can't
hashtag
encroach in this
00,
area.
all the sets,
Slide
slide for 1D.
Plumbing,
Logistics.
electrical,
Yeah.
fire alarms, it's inundated with infrastructure. So this was the only tree that we could actually get. On the initial plan, we hadn't done our underground, radar sensing for, infrastructure at that point. So once we did that, before we started digging, it indicated that we had all this different infrastructure.
I think that green should be BB green, whatever it is, we could do that, that way the kids will get used to where they're going.
Hashtag 00541D.
Is it?
And then the purple field was amazing.
Rebecca, you ruined
This is
him.
a green color. I like it. He knows it.
It's true.
So that's,
Just did all
So
the-
thank you for that, thank you for that direction. We'll proceed with getting this done during the winter break.
Okay.
And just a quick thanks to Rebecca, because she kind of came up with the idea of the umbrellas and the chairs and
Thank
everything,
you.
the tables, because it was just gonna be like this, and she's like, oh, why don't you guys add that? So,
Great,
thank you.
Okay, moving on, sir. What's next?
Hold on, can I just,
Yes,
I'm
you
so
did
sorry,
all.
I just want to clarify with Ken, because that was a change than what we.
The color.
the-
Okay.
I've never said this before. I'm not worried about the color.
Whoa, so I check my temp.
It did look like this in the plan. It doesn't look like this now. It's 4 and 1. And that's why I had recommended that they paint the entire area to bring everything together. So this is a change that we would break it, so it would look like the previous one. So I just wanted to check that if that's the board's direction, that's fine, but it's not gonna look like
Good
it's
point.
4 and 1.
Right, I
So-
think that bothers me, to be honest.
To break it up.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
is the tree, are the sizes of the trees
Because it's
that
four
different as
trees
well?
on the,
Oh, I
on
see.
the
Four
top
trees.
side
Like, is
and
the
one
one
tree
tree
on the
much
bottom.
larger than the
Because
other
there's
tree?
electrical and other
Like
stuff
in this photo?
underground that he couldn't
No.
implant.
So they're uniform
Yeah.
trees.
They're all the same trees, but they're gonna become huge, like the ones that
The
Beverly
picture
has
is
done.
inaccurate,
They're
it's
going
4
to
and
have
So-
1.
canopy?
So it makes sense to
So
have
is
one
it
big
okay for
strip
us to
and
just do one slab instead of
When
breaking
you-
it up?
Yeah.
Did you have to
Okay.
put like a root barrier there so it doesn't get into all your infrastructure?
No, because everything else that's planted is far enough away from infrastructure, and the way we haven't, so the big trick when you're planting trees is to get deep water, and that way your roots go down. One of the things that you see like on our sidewalks here in Beverly Vista and all over, or Beverly Hills and all over town when they plant trees is there's no deep watering. So the roots, that's why you see roots erupting sidewalks and asphalt and stuff. So we actually have installed special irrigation to accommodate that, so these trees we're not gonna have root invasive
Right.
issues.
So then we'll do the full strip then.
I mean, I would do what makes it like most cohesive, so that it looks balanced, because it bothers me that three and more.
Yeah,
it's
it'll-
not
it'll be weird.
it's not symmetrical and then to be
It's right in
divvied
the
up.
middle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got that, it's the full,
Yeah,
okay,
we'll go through.
perfect. And then the last thing is the TK patio, I'll turn it over to Will.
So the TK patio, I don't know if you remember, we originally came to you with our idea to put a single post structure. We found out we could not do that, so in September, we proposed this. It's a 4-post structure, but there's 2 of them, so there's actually 6 posts. We went to DSA with that design in November, and they came back to us with some comments. So, our architect and our structural engineers are trying to address those comments, but we're not 100% sure that we can continue with this shade. And it has to do with clearances from this wall and from that ramp. So,
Is that in the kindergarten area you're
yeah,
talking about? Then?
yeah,
It's a
TK patio.
So what's the options for shade?
So the options for shade, well, just so you know, we're still continuing with this design. We should know in about, hopefully before the holidays, whether we can do this or not. But if we cannot do it, our other options are to put in a play structure that has a shade built in. Obviously, it's gonna be a much smaller shade, but at least there'll be something out there that the kids could use. And then the third option is to put in a softer play structure, soft play area that does not have a shade, but it doesn't.
Can you do something retractable, like from the building?
We can't attach anything to the building, that would drum up a lot more problems for us with DSA.
But we are appealing the comments that they made,
Yeah,
so
so-
this is more of a revised timeline kind of thing.
That's
We
more
won't be
of
able to
what-
do it we wanted to do it, sooner, but it's looking more and more like a project for summer of 2024.
And just to address your comment, Mary, so we actually originally were gonna try to do something attached to the building and stretch across the play area, but we immediately got shot down for
Oh,
that
you
idea.
already went down that
Yeah.
path. I just think
Why
that
did they shoot us down?
the issue is the shade, so, I mean, this
Space
small
for
play
access
structure with
between
that
the poles
doesn't feel like it's
and
gonna
the
address what the true
wall.
issue is
Probably
for that.
not.
And, I mean, either of one of those, so I don't know that those are the solutions from the shade standpoint, I don't know
So,
what that.
like Raphael mentioned, this is more just an update on the timeline, because we originally said we were gonna get it done in the winter.
Right.
We did not get the approval in time. So we're gonna continue with this, and it would be a summer project. If we get the approval, otherwise we'll have to visit these 2 other options, or something else.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious if you have to go down that path, if there's any other options. Because I know, remember in the beginning, the parents wanted to put trees there,
Yeah. Well,
or hedging or
yeah.
something different.
And Ken did put those hedges in, those trees, but they actually didn't provide much more shade than what's there already.
Well, what purpose do the kids and the classrooms and the teachers use this area for? I could be wrong, but I thought it was meant to be for their lunch tables. Am I
No, they
wrong?
also play out there. You can
It's
see
And
always
play
people are-
area.
Yeah.
They use
So-
it all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure they use it all the
Yeah, it's
time.
prime
So
real
if
estate.
you,
But they don't,
if
it's
you,
too hot.
right, but if you put a play structure, would they still be able to have their lunch tables and so on? They could coexist?
Yes, I mean, in my opinion.
I would say
I would-
yes too. I was
Because
gonna.
we would probably use this space for the play structure, and this is just all preliminary
Yeah.
ideas. But they would still have this whole area, which is about
For
40 feet.
It's
tables.
out.
actually a lot bigger than
It's big.
it looks there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
100 feet
The
long.
structure would cast this shadow pretty deep depending on the time of the day.
That's
And that's the
good.
other piece you gotta think of.
Okay, well, that's good, I just wanted to make sure operationally it's what the teachers and kids would use.
And so that's really about it. Just to sum it up, I'm not sure why that's not displaying fully there, sorry about that. But again, just wanted to just revise it again. So the stage structure over the play structure, that's no change. The running track with the new direction now, we're actually saving some funds, and the TK patio shade, as Will mentioned, depending on where we are with the appeal, that may change us to go to another option, and those would actually be cost savings, but we will come back to the board when that time is there. But we just wanted to make sure to emphasize that would mean summer of 2024 is when we would do that.
Are
But that would
are
be-
you appealing for a variance, or how does BSA feel?
So right now, they're not asking for a variance, but we just have to address some structural issues with that exterior wall that goes around the patio. And if we can get those answered, then they may allow us to do it per plan.
Okay.
And finally, I just want to thank the board for the direction. I want to thank our Horseman PTA as well for their support throughout this whole process, and beautifying this, continuing to beautify the campus, and as well as our team, Will and Ken and Rebecca for their support. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you.
Judy, did you still have a question for Claire? When were you?
I would like to raise a question.
Okay.